My name is Ashwyn Mberi. This is Second Take. On 27 November, Namibians from across the country went to the polls. Building up to the election, one could not escape a feeling of excitement, a spirit that was snuffed out by the conduct and lack thereof of the Electoral Commission of Namibia. If elections were a party, the ECN would be an electricity blackout or a bad DJ playing music in his headsets and expecting the rest of the party guests to hear it. They failed to read the room, and that's because for the most part it felt like they weren't in the room. They displayed the communication skills of an illiterate, nonchalant lover that ignores you when you try to have a conversation. Namibians braved the scorching sun, with some even queuing up to vote next to a dump site. Yet, the most potent smell in the air was the stench of incompetence. I'll be talking to Michaela Hansen, who was working across several polling stations during the election in Namspective.
Only free range. What's right for our laying hens is right for you. Only local, never imported. Only date-stamped eggshells so you know it's still fresh. The only eggs to choose.
Joining me now is Michaela Hansen, who had the privilege and the honor to be working on the elections. How are you, Michaela?
I am tired.
You're tired.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure.
So you were at several polling stations trying to make sure that people had the news as it came in. How many polling stations?
I had 20.
20 polling stations to cover. So
Yes.
so you definitely got a general feel of how the election itself was transpiring on the ground.
So basically, we all know that people were complaining, voters were complaining about how long the queues were, the fact that it was not moving.
Girl, I was gonna get into the atmosphere. How was the
I'm explaining, so
You
it
went
was
straight into
very
Okay, let's get straight
negative.
into it. It was straight into it. It was very negative.
It was very negative.
Okay.
The only people that were actually excited was first-time voters.
First time voters.
Yes.
Yes.
So people that had voted before, they were extremely frustrated. I spoke to a lot of senior citizens. They were tired, their feet were swelling. Some of them actually came with pillows and blankets to lay on the floor.
Yes.
At some of my polling stations, imagine how frustrated they got that they became violent.
They became violent.
Yes, at Gamams we had stabbings.
There were
Yeah, at the polling station at Gamams Primary School.
Gamams Primary
Yes.
School. They had stabbings.
They had stabbings.
My goodness. And I personally hadn't been aware of that. But yes, I mean, it goes to show how frustrated people were with the process. And I guess it was a trickle-down effect from the ECN. Was there much communication? I know on our end, we were just, on this side of the camera, and we were definitely trying to get a hold of the ECN throughout. We weren't getting that much communication. Was there much communication from their side, or it was just you and the polling agents,
I don't think there was much communication from the ECN. Most of my presiding officers didn't even have an idea if they did run into trouble.
Like they didn't know what do you mean? They didn't have an idea if they ran into trouble? As in, like they didn't have any contingency plans?
No. I know at one polling station in Ochemise, the fingerprint scanner, it gave in. And usually supposed to have a backup. They were not provided with backup. So they literally waited 2 hours.
2 hours?
2 hours for that tablet.
Because they didn't know where you're supposed to go to get it?
No. Yes.
Okay, no, so then it's understandable for people to be frustrated. On one end, at the onset, people would assume that the frustration is coming from long queues. But it's not just that. No. It was like the processing itself was a real issue for ordinary Namibians. My goodness, did you see any people turn away?
I saw plenty turn away, and my heart broke because it was the youth. And we all know that if we follow social media, people are voting for change.
Let's talk about this for a second, because you Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, patience is not really your thing.
No.
No. Because I'm like, well, where are you going? You've got, more energy than the rest of us, more vibrancy than the rest of us. Why do you think the youth... I don't want to call them fickle, because of course I know people will turn away for different reasons. Some people can genuinely get sick and faint,
I want to put it bluntly.
Yes, yeah.
It's a public holiday. They went to do holiday.
They wanted to holiday. So you feel like the youth were like, listen, I've got a schedule.
I
I've got
have places to be.
These are the hours I've got where I'm going to vote.
Yep.
After that, I'm going to go and rest and relax.
Two of my peers, I know them personally.
Don't say their names, please.
I shall not name drop.
Here.
Waited. They went to the voting stations to Augustinium at 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
It was 9, and that line did not move.
So they said, yeah, because some people had to wait for up to 12 hours.
Yes.
Were you at any polling station where ballot papers ran out?
No, and luckily I did not have any of that.
So you dealt with stabbings, but no ballot papers.
No, I dealt with the violent
yes,
side.
So you were probably on the other extreme. Fair and fine. Fair and fine. So looking at all of this, do you think that some of those youth who had left on the 27th did file back on Friday and Saturday to try and get their votes?
They might. I am going to give my opinion. You need to be extremely patriotical to want change for you to go back.
Absolutely, you have to be absolutely patriotic.
And
Which is
that's
why I
not a
wanted.
thing.
This is why I wanted to call your generation fickle, because
It's not a thing.
it's not a thing. But what I have to say is that the general response from Namibia and to any Gen Zs watching, I have nothing against you. I don't think about you often enough to be able to do so. But Namibians really decided to power through this election. You know what I mean? Looking back on Friday and Saturday, even on Friday, there was even that proclivity to really want to go out. But folks still lined up at Namibia, that's where we are in the Commerce region, and at the various polling stations where they were required to be. But for first-time voters, which I assume is a lot of your peers, right? What do you think that their feeling is of the Namibian electoral system?
Oh, it's not good. Of course, off the record, they were using a lot of cuss words to explain their frustration.
Also, they were using a lot of cuss words, yeah.
Yes,
So it
like,
was a lot of expletives. Yeah.
Quite. ECN had 5 years to plan. They were given a budget. They refused to pay these people. That's probably why they're lazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, you have no idea what these presiding officers and what they went through. I spoke to one. He struggled to form a proper sentence because he was so exhausted.
So you couldn't even blame the presiding officers.
No,
What
you
you're
cannot.
saying is that they were ill-equipped.
I don't think they got proper training because even with my returning officer, he didn't even set up the collation center where they're supposed to count again, right? That's what happens at the collation center, where it's a collective where everybody's results from different polling stations in their constituency happens. He did not plan. I spoke to one of SWAPO's informatives. She came back and forth the entire day yesterday. Nothing happened. The collation center was locked. Why was it not set up? Right? We understand that polling stations ran until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? But that is supposed to be sorted. We don't have to wait another extra couple of hours for that to take place.
Would all of this have been made easier if the ECN had been communicating,
Communicating. Also, another grievance that I have with what's happening, why is there only one IT guy in the Commerce region?
There's only one IT guy in the Commerce region. So for the entire region, there's one IT guy who's supposed to... maybe it's for accountability, or maybe he's the Namibian Elon Musk. He's the super IT guy, you know what I mean? We can't trust anyone else with computers. I am asking the same question as you right now.
No.
That makes no sense.
Because by that logic,
yeah.
Why are there so many presiding officers with different ballots? I know at some point I heard a story about someone's the tent, the mobile station, the tent flew and the ballots was in the air.
Oh, wow. I can't blame the ECN for that. That sounds like an act of God. If I'm going to be quite honest with you, that's the wind. I don't know who we should blame for the wind. But I'm joking.
I feel like
they're supposed to have these. Look, there's supposed to be a contingency plan for everything, because this is the most important day in several years in the nation. And $430 million budget says these mistakes should not happen. A $430 million budget says that all these people should be well equipped and ready for any eventuality. $430 million budget says that you should be communicating efficiently to people instead of, Future, Hendricks. Future.
Yeah.
ECN is like Future. You know what I mean? And we all feel like one of Future's girlfriends. You're trying to communicate, and the guy's just nonchalant, speaking through his teeth, and barely trying to say anything.
Or Lori Harvey that just keeps moving on to the next
Or
thing without
Lori-
addressing the problem.
Address the issue, like
Yes.
how did we actually get here? So do you think, look, a lot of irregularities. There's a lot of things we are figuring out as a nation. I'm not saying that there should be room for these kind of mistakes at elections, but sometimes when it comes to important things, you figure it out as you go. We had to figure out how to bury our president because we simply hadn't had a president die, and that was also part of the domino effect that pushed these elections to this state, etc., etc. Ultimately, I feel like Namibians were determined to make sure that their voices are heard. Do you believe that the nation will trust their results?
No.
You don't know. Okay,
No.
girl. Okay. Because I was going to qualify that. So you just now. You don't. That's your opinion. You don't
That's my
think people
opinion.
will
I
trust?
feel like we had the worst case of voter oppression.
Oh,
The worst. Yep.
It was like that.
Yep. Because how can you turn away voters? Because I understand you are tired, you are drained, but what is the nation's? What is ECN's
Mandate.
slow? Yes, every vote counts.
Every vote counts.
Every vote counts.
Yeah.
And also, with ECN's planning, people are exhausted. Mistakes happen. At my my main polling station, they recounted 3 ballot boxes twice because of the mistakes they're making.
Okay.
So I feel like there must be a rotation of staff also, or they give them breaks or something. But to expect people to work for 3 days in a row.
Are these the same people who are getting paid $150?
Yes, but it was updated to 250.
Oh, look at us.
And then I also
We
got
just-
inside information that they get paid a different rate on the day of election, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, is it a better rate on the day of election?
I wasn't sure. I just know there's a different rate.
Okay.
That was the
That
different
was the
rate.
issue. And we did have people get replaced towards the election because they weren't in agreement. I do remember there were people who had raised these concerns. And
the strikes that were happening in Rundu and so forth.
Yes, the strikes that were happening in Rundu. Very interesting for it to be like this. But looking at the Gen Zs, who won't be, the youngest of the youth, heading into future elections, what do you think they want to see? What do your people want?
Change. However, my problem is that people that vote for change or claim to vote for change, every candidate, that is their main focus. Change. So what are you actually voting for? You need to go back and sit with yourself and be like, okay, this candidate has this on their policy, this candidate has this on their policy. We are not well informed. I will be the first to say that. We're not taught these things in school.
Is it because Gen Zs don't like to read?
No.
Because the rest of us have been checking out the
We
manifesto.
were more updated with what's happening in America than in our own country.
Well, that's the point that we're making. Is it because that African politics isn't fun for you guys? Like, look at our candidates. We don't have Kamala.
We don't have Megan Thee Stallion twerking.
Yes, we
Yeah.
don't have. She had Beyonce at a thing. We don't have Donald
The
Trump.
closest we have is Amushilelo.
Shalilo was entertaining in his own right, but that excitement, because ultimately we want the excitement to come from a sense of duty, a sense of wanting to see democracy flourish in our country. You're saying that excitement just isn't there.
It's not there. I do think that the way that politics, or when it comes to elections, how it's supposed to be done, because we are a lazy generation, we don't like reading, we don't like researching, it needs to be easily accessible. So the country must move also with us to adapt to that.
Let us adapt
Do
to
actual
the
rallies.
laziness of the Gen Zs. This is what
Yes.
they're saying. I'm assuming you don't want the pencils, you want to tap something.
Have pens, because that's
Have
also
pens.
a concern, right?
Because pencils are that's weird, right? To have pencils, because pencils you can just erase what's
Exactly.
going on.
Have pens.
Okay, tell us what else? How does the Gen Z election look like?
It just looks negative.
No,
People are
but as in like
negative.
the Gen Z election of the future. How would you want
How would I would
elections to be done?
definitely rallies. I need every candidate to actually have an actual campaign and not just a poster that's posted on a light pole, right?
Okay.
There are rallies held. I agree. but not effectively.
Not effective rallies, not enough of them.
And we need to see how these people debate when questions are asked. You know, like in pageants, where they ask a question.
So you want a debate? You also want to see a presidential debate?
Yes, I do.
You'd love to see a presidential
without the party. Leave the party out.
Just
I want to see how this person thinks.
What does the individual think? You
Yes.
felt like that was missing in this election.
I agree.
And that was part of the reason, because Gen Zs are confrontational over screen, but confrontational in general. Do you think that's part of the reason that some of the guys were just not up for it?
I agree. Also, I do think we need to do things traditionally still, because I do have a bit of fear with technological issues, because we've seen that a lot in this election, with the tablets giving in. Let's keep that to a minimum. Let's do it traditional and use a pen. Let's just use the pen.
Yeah.
And I do think that the people who do the counting needs to be a new set of fresh minds, well-rested people. Yes.
With perhaps an A on their mathematics exam with regards to their matric certificate. Michaela Hansen, thank you for joining us and just giving us your opinion based on the ground experience, and thank you for serving the Namibian nation at elections, making sure we get the news as it is, and then coming to Second Take so you could be as honest as you'd have liked to be.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really great to explain this on the field, and I hope that every journalist out there powers through.
All right, power through, the Gen Z say. That's been Namspective.
ShopRite Namibia and Synergy Chatbot are delivering the Christmas spirit. This festive season, I've got a very special surprise just for you. My magical elves will be delivering gifts straight to your doorsteps. Grab your crayons or pencils and draw me a picture. Simply save the number on your phone and follow the on-screen prompts.
From ballot papers running out without any notice being given to queuing individuals until they had actually totally run out, to the ECN calling press conferences and deciding to tell journalists and media upon arrival that they would only be speaking to the state broadcaster. Their communication, amongst other things, was poor, a sentiment shared by the Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, the SWAPO Youth League, the IPC, who went straight to their lawyers, LPM, who had to pretend that they had the most to lose, and AR. Their performance at the onset of the election was bad, a word that shouldn't be aligned with any entity that was given 430 million Namibian dollars to perform their job well. Here's an excerpt of a chat that I had with Toivo Njebela on exactly this issue.
Yeah, I saw, in fact, prior to coming to studio, I saw it, and I did indeed ask, because there were just some floating information on social media, not really attributed properly. So I did ask IPC on their media WhatsApp group whether this news was true. I had not received a response by the time I came to the studio. But the fact of the matter is that it's a legitimate concern. We have people. I saw a video taken in Windhoek. At least Conrad is talking about Mdangilo, which is in Hangwena and other places. Of course, there are mentions of some places in Windhoek. There's a video of a returning officer talking to the crowd, saying, "We have run out of ballot papers. I do not know where to get the extra ballot papers," and urging people to say, those of you who know another polling station that has fewer, shorter queues, you may please just leave now while we try to sort this thing out. Unbelievable. It cannot be correct that people, I mean, there can be other problems, but to deny people their right to vote on the basis of running out of ballot papers, that cannot be excused.
And especially when I believe we were told 3 million ballot papers had been printed. 3 million would certainly be just over the halfway, just double the population. So the population of registered voters, at least. So that is a concern. But we're looking at what IPC is seeking in particular over here? Is this just to prompt the ECN into action, or are they potentially seeking to nullify today's entire process based on this quote-unquote hiccup?
Yeah, I mean, you never know what this will end up being. The issue with this kind of things is that there are processes that are involved. You have to go to court, and the court
and speaking of which, I should just highlight to our audience that the IPC, we do not know if they have already, but they still can file an urgent application in the High Court. There's actually no time limit for that. That can happen at any point in time. But as of the news we have right now, that urgent application has not been filed. But please do continue to.
Yeah. So what concerns me the most is that ECN is not actually calming us down. Because in the past, and this is why I have a problem with this new leadership of ECN, I have called them incompetent in the afternoon, and I do not regret making that statement again, because everything that we have seen and experienced today speaks to gross incompetence. You cannot be running out of papers. You are not managing crowds at things. You know, there are people who started camping at polling stations at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then some people just showed up at 11 in the afternoon, and somehow they formed their own queue. Then you, who came that early, is now suddenly at the back of that queue.
Yes,
because there's no one to control to put order there, or even to say, sir, we saw you cutting the line. You are not going to come inside here. Put order there.
Have they been forthcoming with communications? Because IPC is alleging that their phones are being picked up.
That is the point that I'm driving to say that in the past, you would see the ECN of Tio Muyoro, the last CEO of the ECN. Those guys could have 3 press conferences a day. You call a press conference to address this particular allegation. You call this one to do this. These ones, you don't know who is where, what they are doing, why they are not promptly attending to queries, to serious allegations. If you could say, look, it's just a question of transport. We can't deliver to the things, but the ballot papers we have
are there.
Now we don't even know whether they are there. It cannot be more worrying than that.
How far can you divorce this from the issue of ballot papers that was raised about a month prior to the election? It was a huge ruckus in the media sphere, social media, and of course, Namibian opinion. There was an issue about who was printing these ballot papers, about the ECN's inspection of these ballot papers in South Africa. And it seems that thread is stretching to this very day. Do you think that perhaps now that allows those concerns to resurface along with today's issues?
That entire process, Ashwyn, was just messy. You don't know whether it was messy by design or by default. By design, in other words, people working under from behind the scenes to make certain things in favor of someone, or by default, like the incompetence that I'm talking about. You cannot have a situation where you had 5 years and somehow you ran out of time to go through the normal procurement process to print ballot papers. You say, we don't have enough time left, and people might appeal some of the tender outcomes, and therefore we just went for direct thing. So it's ECN itself that ended up picking this direct, this supplier. Not correct. And then now the problem with the silence of ECN is that it's now feeding the rumor mill now.
Yes.
People are saying, because the irony of this is that people were saying, 3 million ballot papers for what? That was the common voice at the time to say it's suspicious. Now suddenly, they are nowhere to be found. The contradiction cannot be more wider than that. So all these things are just feeding into these things.
So right now, you're standing 10 toes down. Your opinion is that there's been incompetence. Could we also tie that to the complaints that we had from polling officers just yesterday? Because you said they have 5 years. Does it feel like they're prepared for 5 years?
No, they don't. They seem like they only started. They were told maybe 3 weeks ago that 3 months ago that we have an election. This is not even the election. Remember, when our late president passed away in February, there was a possibility, technically,
of an election happening. In that space
within 90 days.
Yes.
Luckily, there was still 12 months to go, and therefore, they say I think they say if there's more than 12 months or something to that effect, if elections are more than are that far,
yes,
then you're allowed to have an acting president until then.
Yes.
If elections were closer,
yes,
we would have been required to have that election within 90 days or something like that.
Yes.
If they couldn't prepare for this long,
yes,
how would it have been if the death of President Hage Geingob required that they hold an election within 60 days or 90 days? It would have been a calamity.
Hold that thought, Toivo. So there you have it. Second takers. Namibia went to elections. Hashtag Namibia decided 2024. We are waiting for the results to fully roll out. All I can say is Namibians, ordinary Namibians who weren't pushed to the front of the queue, who weren't pushed out of queues in many different ways, ordinary Namibians who cared to make sure that their vote was cast. You did your part. We really hope that your vote is echoed in your democracy in a way that works for you and for other Namibians. For me, Ashwyn Mberi, maybe the election doesn't need a second take.